Hello. Today is the 29th of January 2015, and we're going to have a little chat, or continue our chat, Dora and I, about her autobiography. And I know you're looking forward to this.
The 29th
Of January.
January.
Yeah, not quite the 29th of February. That's a year and a month from now.
That would be a story in itself.
Indeed. Indeed. So you're already up there?
Yep, it looks great.
So when we were last talking, we were up to the time when you and Herbert met. And we were going to talk about that, and then about married life and life as both a mother and a scholar, and wife and grandmother and scholar and wife, and so on.
It's all about me.
Well, that's the way autobiographies are. It's a funny thing. So, where do you want to start?
Well, I could start by touching on one or two or more points in my life where important decision needed to be made, and my own stopping there and wondering to myself whether I would have made that same decision today, and why I think I made it then, which seems to be autobiography.
Sure does.
Yes. Obviously, if you can find some,
There's some water, right? You
lemon.
want some water?
huh?
Some water?
Yeah, but I need
A lemon drop?
drops.
It's rolling, so it's gathering.
Thank you.
Sure.
The obvious answer to the question, the first answer to the question, is that the world has changed particularly for women, and particularly for women like me. What do I mean? Oh, bless you. Here come the lemon drops I badly need. They're right here, and I feel better. Thank you very much. That's what Pony does in my life. Lemon drops at critical moments.
That's a high praise. So you were saying, the life has changed, particularly for women like you.
Okay, life has changed, but in a way that I would not subscribe to, which is that there has been a lot of protest that there are not enough women CEOs of large corporations, which is certainly true and is a shame, and that women get overlooked or skipped as possible occupants of important shares in business, in academia, in wherever you like. The protest being that they are being discriminated against because they're women. Now, this particular action has never occurred to me personally, and I wonder why. And I think the short answer, which is superficial but true, is that growing up with two sons, now grown, I felt protected.
You mean two brothers or two sons? You said growing up with
two brothers. Mm-hmm.
Right, which
Two brothers.
continues.
Growing up with two brothers.
Well, now I have two sons
Three sons.
who take
3 sons now, 2 brothers then.
right?
Right.
So that I have always felt protected by men.
Interesting.
And I see in a short autobiographical piece that my brother Walter, the oldest of the Vera children, he makes a short remark about the relationship of my father to me, because I said somewhere that the person who really counted among males in my family was my grandfather. And the grandfather was also, it turns out, as testimony from Walter, the grandfather was the person to whom he fled because his own father didn't seem to have time for him. And thinking back to that, which means when he was a teenager, well, he's 12 years older than I, or was, he's dead. Like most of the men in my family. Because Walter says that after my mother and father had 2 boys, they really, really wanted a girl, and they gave it another try. And that try was apparently decided on a vacation someplace in Switzerland, and there is a photograph of the 2 of them sitting on a bench where, according to legend, this suggestion was popped
Give it another try.
by my father. And whether whatever happened on a bench, I don't know. But what I do know is that the hoped for girl was produced and turned out to be me. And according to Walter, and my father made her his princess. And, well, I didn't know how fathers treated daughters. But generally speaking, girls didn't matter. Whereas in our family, I certainly mattered. But I thought that was the way, how it was. My grandfather pampered me, my father loved me. The other grandfather I never knew, he died way before I was born even. And anyway, in the Metzger family, that is to say my mother's family, I now think a lot of love for children and even demonstrated love among the adults was in short supply. So, and I was awakened to that by the tone, and one quick remark, in my cousin's biography of her family, which is called something like From Generation to Generation, and has the, to me, unsavory main allegiance to things German. She has a very bad, not bad, thank you Sigmund Freud, a very big place in her heart for things German. She has a PhD in German poetry and apparently was a published poet, according to her daughter, Ruth. And why am I telling you this?
To talk about the relationship between the genders.
Oh yes, where she talks about her mother's travel, who briefly visited her own sister, Lily's aunt, my mother. And the text says something like, I spent 3 weeks in Stockholm. That was her father's residence. Significantly, mother lives in Sweden and father lives in wherever he wants. I haven't seen my sister Emma for a long time. The next day I went to so-and-so, so you would expect, if you haven't seen your sister for a long time, that would be worth a sentence or two. No such thing, and certainly anything I knew about Ida's life from my mother was that the Beckmans were very status conscious, and he was something called a Kommerzienrat. Kommerzienrat is something like economic counselor. It's an honorific title that you probably buy, which didn't mean much. And if you look at the photo of the front of the Beckman house in Fürth and compare it to the front of the Beera home in Fürth, you can see what she means. The Beera home is very simple, and the Beckman home, roughly of the same dimensions, has all kinds of curlicues and angels and things.
So this you carried with you. This feeling of protection you carried with you.
Yes.
And you carried it with you even through the years in France. The flight from Germany and the...
Yes, because it's within your heart. It's part of you. This is, by the way, I'm interested that you picked this up, is what made it relatively easy for myself and my native Central American companion around the clock for 3 meals a day for 3 years with Irma, and now with Eva, to focus in our chit-chat over breakfast on the family side of things, because we realized we're 2 grandmothers having breakfast. And once you have 2 grandmothers having breakfast, what do you talk about with the grandchildren? and
Right.
all kinds of other things.
So, but when you think about your time, let's take the next period after Germany, when you were in France. Much of that time you were separated from your brothers, you were separated from your father, and you were with your mother, who was in charge.
The mother who was in charge don't have that feeling. The feeling was in France. If you live in France, and you know that, having lived in Belgium, which imitated France in many ways,
It's a poor imitation of France in many ways. Yeah.
that culture is paternalistic, created by the educational culture created by the Jesuits in the Middle Ages. This rubbed off on the attitude of the lawmakers. They were all educated at the lycée, a culture dictated in the good sense, established by the people elected to run the government. Forget how I started this sentence, but the curriculum for French lycée took as its background and permanent pattern for young men and young women in cities and countryside, in France and the colonies. The pattern was what the lawgivers decided. Who are the classics that every Frenchman should know? Racine, Corneille, and Molière among the playwrights. D'Alembert and the Encyclopédie, probably Voltaire and Diderot, and a couple of others. What should they know? Well, we give them a collection of classical texts. Every educated Frenchman will know these. Therefore, every educated Frenchman will know what the home should be like, how much church going there should be, whether people should have a garden or not, the basic outlines of a home for daily living. Would Frenchmen abide by this? Of course. Because success depended on advancing, slowly but advancing, in the hierarchy defined by these signposts. And very sorry about my throat.
Would you like some water?
Yeah, thanks. It goes back to a very nasty disease I caught called dry mouth, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Here, we can let's take a break.
Take a little break.